Come closer. The shadows have missed you, and tonight they have a new story to tell. Welcome to Scary Stories After Dark. Bethesda's eyes rolled back as the floorboards split open beneath her, swallowing her scream into the shadows that whispered her name over and over like a prayer. Her own face grinned up at her from inside the wall, its mouth dripping with soot. 3 weeks earlier. The Banshee Inn whispered before it ever welcomed. Cold air slithered beneath the front doors as Benny and Bethesda wrestled the lock open for the first time. The house groaned like it hadn't had company in centuries, which wasn't far from the truth. Paint peeled in long strips like skin off sunburn. Chandeliers dangled from rusted chains. There was a smell of rotting books, wet fireplace ashes, and something else. Rot, the kind that sticks in your teeth. Bethesda stood still in the grand hallway, breath fogging. Her boots echoed on the warped floorboards. She tilted her head. "Did you hear that?" "No." Her voice was quiet. "It said my name." It had. The whisper came from beneath the floorboards, soft and hollow. Bethesda, like a breeze exhaling through forgotten lips. The couple exchanged a look, equal parts fear, exhaustion, and love-struck disbelief. They'd spent every dollar from their wedding to buy this place. A haunted, crumbling bed and breakfast in a nowhere town called Cackle Hill, established 1624, population 666 on the sign, which Bethesda was sure was a bad joke. They had wanted a fresh start. What they got was a mouthful of gloom. Later that night, as Benny wrestled with a busted light fixture, Bethesda explored the hallway outside room 3C. That's when the door creaked open on its own. It was pitch black inside. No draft, no reason, just a slow, deliberate swing inward. She stepped back. The floor moaned again, her name again. The voice whispered again, "Bethesda." They should have left the first night. But sarcasm and stubborn love make terrible escape plans, so they stayed. And when the front door slammed itself shut twice, Benny just muttered, "It's trying to lower the heating bill." Bethesda joked about sage and exorcisms, but neither of them lit anything. They didn't want to know what it might wake up. The help arrived on a Monday. It wasn't their idea. The townspeople of Cackle Hill didn't apply to work at the inn. Most wouldn't even look at it. A woman at the corner market dropped her eggs when Bethesda said the word banshee. Another whispered, "It's not asleep anymore," and fled. But then came Guy and Sabrina, both 18, both strange, both unshaken. Guy had a switchblade smile, chipped nail polish, and sarcasm sharp enough to cut drywall. Sabrina was eyeliner, vintage horror tees, and energy that said she'd survive an apocalypse on pure spite. Benny hired them immediately, not because they were qualified, but because the inn didn't flinch at them. Their first shift was cleaning out room 3C, the bathtub faucet turned on by itself. Bethesda was bent over scrubbing the cracked tile when the water started running, ice cold, full blast. "Either this house is really dramatic or it's trying to make a point," Guy said, standing in the doorway with his vacuum unplugged again. Bethesda tried to shut off the knob, but it wouldn't budge. Then it stopped on its own. She stared into the tub. Something floated inside. A coin, old, rusted, marked with her birth year. Benny didn't believe her. So he grabbed the coin and marched straight to the town's records office, determined to prove the house was just a house. He came back pale. "This isn't a coin," he said, voice trembling. "It's a token from a funeral, 1989, for a woman named Bethesda Clark." she'd never told him her maiden name. That night, the house started watching. Lights turned off the moment someone entered a room. Doors swung open when no one stood near them. Cold spots slithered like snakes along the floor. Sabrina swore she saw her reflection blink out of sync. Guy started setting traps, dumb little pranks. He laid string across doorways, placed pennies on top of doors, just to see, and in the morning, the pennies were all stacked on his pillow, melted. 3 guests arrived that week. A businesswoman named Elaine, a couple from Vermont. They seemed normal. They even joked about the inn's spooky charm. That night, Benny heard someone singing from room 2B. He knocked. No answer. He opened the door and found the room completely empty, clean, as if no one had ever been there. He closed the door and caught his reflection in the hall mirror, except he wasn't moving. His reflection grinned at him. The next morning, the Vermont couple was gone. Their bags remained, shoes neatly lined up, phone still charging. Hotel Bible opened to a page circled in red. And they shall be called by no name and walk among you as shadows. Benny didn't remember leaving that book there. Bethesda hadn't circled anything. Guy said, "So we're living in a creepypasta." No one laughed. Sabrina started drawing diagrams, layouts of the house, but every night the hallways changed. She scratched out lines, redrew them. "I think the house is folding inward," she said, "like it's building something." Bethesda asked, "Like what?" Sabrina didn't look up. A mirror. In room 9D, someone or something wrote on the bathroom wall in condensation, "Get out, but leave yourself." Bethesda ran her fingers across the mirror. A handprint appeared beside hers, smaller, twisted, backward. It started with Mr. Greeley. He checked into room 5B with 2 laptops, no luggage, and a haunted look in his eyes. When Benny offered to help with bags, the man said, "No need, I won't be here long." He stayed 3 nights. On the 4th, he walked down the grand staircase barefoot, blood crusted along his temple, and a blank expression stretched too tight across his face. Bethesda stepped back behind the front desk, spine straight. "Mr. Greeley, are you all right?" He blinked slowly. "I've stayed here before." "No, you're our first guest in room 5B. "No, not in that room, in the one beneath it." There was no room beneath 5B. Bethesda followed the man back upstairs. The hallway seemed longer now, stretched like the house was flexing its bones. Inside the room, everything looked untouched. But when she glanced at the window, she saw something etched in the glass, letters scratched in with something sharp. "Do not sleep." Mr. Greeley checked out at dawn. He left behind a journal with only 1 entry, scrawled in uneven handwriting. "I looked into the mirror too long. He climbed out and I never left." Guy started sleeping in short bursts, only during the day. He set up a night vision baby monitor in the hallway outside his room. The next morning, he reviewed the footage. It was mostly static until 3:36 a.m. Then, movement. A figure stepped out of his room, faceless in the night cam. It looked like him, only it walked to Sabrina's door, stood there, smiled, and then turned and stared straight into the camera lens. Guy deleted the footage, didn't tell Sabrina. Sabrina began hearing her name in vents, always whispered, always from behind. Once, while cleaning the ballroom, she turned quickly and saw her reflection in the window. Only the reflection was scrubbing blood from the floor. She stood in place for nearly 10 minutes before the reflection finally looked at her. It mouthed, "You'll thank me later." Bethesda had crept down to the kitchen hours ago, not because she was hungry, but because the bedroom walls had started whispering again. The kitchen was the last place that still felt real, familiar. She poured tea with shaking hands and pretended it helped. Elaine, the businesswoman, was next. She stumbled into the kitchen at 2:15 a.m., confused, sweating, barefoot. When Elaine entered, wide-eyed and barefoot, Bethesda barely blinked. "Can't sleep?" Elaine trembled. I saw myself walk past my room. She looked older, better rested. She smiled at me like she knew something I didn't. Benny handed her a towel. "Why didn't you leave?" he asked gently. Elaine's eyes flicked to the hallway. "I think I already did." She was gone by morning, not a trace. Only her scarf remained, looped around the neck of one of the statues in the lobby. None of them remembered that statue having a face yesterday. Now it looked vaguely like her. Bethesda stopped trusting mirrors. She started checking her shadow instead, just to make sure it moved when she did. One night, brushing her teeth, she glanced up. Her reflection smiled while she was still rinsing. Sabrina tore the wallpaper off the walls in room 6F. Underneath, more wallpaper, but this layer was older, lined with drawings, stick figures, all with smiling faces and blacked-out eyes. In the corner, in red pencil, "This is where they keep the extras." Guy wrote a message on his own chest in Sharpie before bed. "You are the original." He woke up and it was smeared, almost erased. Benny started researching the town. He found an old record in the Cackle Hill Library archive. Blueprints for the Banshee Inn, dated 1791. In the margins, a handwritten note in red ink. "The house takes what fits. Don't mirror too long." The handwriting matched his own. Exactly. They all gathered in the ballroom that night. No lights, just candles. Sabrina was holding the night cam tape. Bethesda was gripping her old wedding photo, the one where she swore someone extra was standing in the background now. Guy had his crowbar. Benny was silent. For the first time, he said what they were all afraid to. "I think the inn is replacing us." Bethesda nodded, her voice cracked. "I think it already started." They tried to leave, not in theory, not in dreams, in a van, packed with real bags, full tank of gas, no horror movie hesitation. Bethesda kissed Benny goodbye on the porch. He grinned through exhaustion. "I'll come back with coffee and sanity." She watched him drive off. 10 minutes passed, then 20. Then the van reappeared, tires crunching over the gravel. Benny stepped out, staring. "I never turned around," he whispered. I drove in a straight line, never stopped, but the woods just looped. The GPS glitched out, and the inn was waiting." Bethesda swallowed and looked up at the second-floor window, where she was standing, watching, smiling. They tried other ways. Guy climbed the roof to get a signal. The phone worked until he called 911 and heard his own voice pick up on the other end. Sabrina scribbled escape plans into her notebook. The words rearranged themselves when she looked away. That night they all dreamed the same thing. The trap door, the room beneath, the chairs, the pool, and standing across the black water, each other, but reversed, distorted. Their reflections grinned as they drowned them in the dream. They woke up screaming at the exact same moment. 3:33 a.m. Sabrina tested herself the next day. She cut a mark into her forearm, tiny, shallow, her version of control. Then, hours later, she found the same cut on the arm of her double, in the mirror, smiling, bleeding in sync. She didn't sleep that night. Guy stopped talking for almost 12 hours. He sat on the lobby floor, crowbar across his lap, scribbling tally marks into the wood. Bethesda sat beside him. "You all right?" she whispered. He nodded slowly. Then, "I'm just trying to make sure I'm not a memory." The inn groaned louder with each passing day. Hallways flexed, walls pulsed, furniture creaked in rhythm like a heartbeat. They heard murmuring under the floorboards, like a family at dinner. Bethesda pressed her ear to the wall and froze, because the voice on the other side was hers, saying things she'd never said aloud. That night, Sabrina wandered off. No one noticed for almost an hour. They found her standing in room 7C, staring into the wardrobe, face blank. The room reeked of bleach and earth. Bethesda rushed in. "Sabrina." Sabrina turned slowly, but her eyes were all black. Bethesda stepped back. "Sabrina?" The girl blinked, and just like that, the blackness was gone. She collapsed. Guy caught her. She sobbed into his chest. "I think I stepped out of myself," she whispered. "I think it was waiting." Benny found a letter in the dining room that night, folded, yellowed, written in his handwriting. "They don't take you all at once. They take your silence, your sleep, your shadow, until there's nothing left to replace." He read it aloud. Bethesda grabbed a match and burned it. "Then we don't give them anything else." That was the night the front door vanished. Just a wall now, as if the inn had decided they belonged to it. Guy was the first to slip, not loudly, not with screams, just quietly, like he was being erased one memory at a time. He stopped making jokes. He stopped eating. One morning, he forgot the name of his favorite band. By nightfall, he couldn't remember the punchline to the joke he made yesterday. Bethesda found him in the laundry room, staring into the dryer, motionless. Inside, a shirt tumbling, one she didn't recognize. She reached for his arm. "Guy?" He didn't flinch. Then, in a voice too flat, he said, "She said I'm easier to copy when I'm quiet." They moved him into room 3B. Sabrina refused to leave his side. She sat beside his bed with a flashlight and a kitchen knife. She slept in 20-minute bursts. Every time she blinked longer than that, she heard footsteps approaching the door. Every single time. Bethesda and Benny took shifts watching the hallway. On Benny's shift, the lights went out. He heard someone breathing. When he turned, Guy was standing there. Or someone wearing Guy's skin, head tilted, eyes blank, mouth twitching. Benny said nothing, just raised his phone and started filming. The figure smiled and walked backward into the dark. When Benny played back the footage, there was no one in the video. Sabrina began asking Guy questions only he would know. At first he answered right. Then he hesitated. "What's the scar on my ankle from?" Silence. "It's from the bike chain, freshman year. You said it made me look punk. You remember that, right?" He blinked, smiled, and whispered, "You'll look better when you forget." Sabrina slapped him hard, and for a second, just a second, his eyes flashed with something, terror, then tears. He gasped, collapsed into her arms. "I was in the walls," he sobbed. "I saw me." He smiled, said it's easier when you don't resist. She held him like her soul was falling apart. "I'll never let it take you." That night, Benny snapped. He marched into the ballroom with the crowbar and smashed every mirror he could find. Bethesda followed him, yelling for him to stop, but he couldn't, not until every reflection was shattered. "I don't want to see what's already replacing me," he growled. Later, Bethesda found a message scrawled on the ceiling above her bed in soot. "The ones you save become the easiest to wear." She didn't sleep that night, neither did anyone else, because the doppelgangers had begun whispering through the vents, not just mocking anymore, begging. "Let us in." The next morning, Guy drew a line across his own chest with permanent marker, "Not ready to be replaced." Sabrina did the same. Benny carved a tally into the wall for every day they were still them. Bethesda marked hers in her journal, on the back page, right beneath the name she hadn't said aloud in years, Bethesda Clark. The name the doppelganger used, the one the house whispered. That evening, the inn moaned. The floorboard split open slightly in the hallway, revealing what looked like a second staircase beneath the original. Bethesda stood at the edge. She felt it, a heartbeat, throbbing through the wood. The house wasn't haunted. It was evolving, and it was getting ready to hatch. It started with the floor, room 9A. Sabrina was scrubbing dust away when her rags sank slightly into a soft spot beneath the boards. She knocked twice, hollow. Guy called for Benny, who brought the crowbar, flashlight, and zero hesitation. Together they pried it open. Beneath was a circular hatch, crusted with rust and soot. Bethesda stared down into it. The air rising up smelled of mildew, burnt sugar, and rot. They didn't speak. They just went down. The staircase curled deep beneath the inn, past stone walls streaked with old claw marks and black handprints that led nowhere. The deeper they went, the colder it got. Their phone flashlights dimmed, not because of battery, because something was feeding on the light. They stepped into a circular room, stone, damp, pulsing. At the center, a black pool, still, silent, not water, not liquid, something else, like mirror fluid. 7 chairs surrounded it, each carved with names, some familiar, guests who vanished. Some theirs. Guy, Sabrina, Bethesda, Benny. Names carved in jagged, unaged wood, as if the seats had been waiting. Benny stepped toward the pool. The surface rippled. Then 4 shapes rose from within. Their doppelgangers. Bethesda's double smiled, but her smile didn't stop at her mouth. It pulled too wide, up to the ears, full of teeth. "Trade," she whispered. Guy's double spoke next. "Give us your pain. We'll be better, happier, quieter." Sabrina spat on the ground. "Go where someone else." The doppelgangers stepped forward, one for each of them, mirroring every breath, every blink, every regret. Bethesda's double looked into her soul. "You miss who you were before the wedding. You think about it." Bethesda froze. Benny reached for her. "Don't listen." "You almost ran," the doppelganger whispered. "Remember?" Bethesda trembled. "I was scared," she whispered. The double grinned. "Exactly, I'm the version who wasn't. I'm better." The pool pulsed. The room shook. One of the chairs splintered. And from the wall behind them, a faint scream echoed. Their own scream. They had no more time. Bethesda stepped forward, lit a match, held the flame near the black pool. "I'm not perfect," she said, "but I'm real." The double lunged. Bethesda dropped the flame. The pool ignited in blue fire. The doppelgangers screamed. Their skin warped, sagged, mouths gaping too wide, too wrong. Their faces unraveled, melting into 1,000 versions of other people they had once been, not ghosts. Parasites. They weren't imitating, they were replacing, feeding off memories, guilt, fear, identity, trying on every version until one fit perfectly. The fire spread to the walls, the pool cracked like glass. The screaming didn't stop. The room collapsed inward. The four of them ran, climbing fast. Smoke, screeches, whispered begging from the walls. "Don't leave us. You'll come back. You always come back." They reached the inn again, but it was changing, shrinking, like an animal curling into itself, like a womb collapsing after the birth. They burst through the ballroom, the chandeliers flickered, and then stillness, just silence. For the first time since arriving, the inn stopped breathing. They found themselves outside. The door no longer fought them. The wind was cold and natural. The trees looked real again. The air smelled like nothing. They stood on the gravel, breathing hard. No one said a word until Benny whispered, "Did we win?" Bethesda looked at her hands, at the dirt on her skin, at the ring on her finger, and at her reflection in the window beside the door. It blinked a second too late. They didn't speak for a long time, just stood there, outside, on the crumbling steps of the Banshee Inn, alive, breathing, but changed. The door behind them no longer groaned. No whispers, no resistance. Bethesda reached back and pushed it gently. It creaked open, silent, empty, dead. She looked at Benny. "It's over?" He didn't answer, just took her hand. The four of them packed in silence. Their bags were lighter than when they arrived, not because they lost things, but because they left pieces behind. Time, memories, shadows. Guy found a jacket he didn't remember owning. Sabrina found a second toothbrush in her bag, identical to hers, still damp. They walked through the lobby one final time. The light through the tall windows felt real again, like sunlight, like morning. But the silence was wrong, too perfect, the kind that follows a scream. Bethesda stopped at the front desk. The guest book lay open. One final name had been written in shaky ink. "You made it out, but not all of you." They climbed into the van, the keys still in the ignition, no static on the radio, no blood in the rearview mirror, just fog lifting as they pulled out of the gravel drive. The town of Cackle Hill looked smaller now, like it had folded in on itself. A sign at the town line read, "Thank you for visiting. Please return with what's missing." Benny didn't laugh. No one did. 20 miles out, they stopped for gas. A dusty roadside station, quiet, normal. Bethesda walked into the restroom, locked the door, and stared at herself in the mirror. She blinked, so did the reflection. She moved her hand, so did the reflection. Then, just for a second, it smiled, only she hadn't. Sabrina found a voicemail on her phone, time-stamped from 2 nights ago. It was her own voice whispering, "Don't come back upstairs, I'm already here." She deleted it, didn't say a word. Back on the road, they tried to laugh, tried to joke, tried to say, "We beat it." But no one could finish the sentence, and in the back of the van, sitting between them, was a 5th bag. No one packed it, no one touched it. It hummed softly, like breathing. The inn was gone when they checked the GPS. The location, blank. The map, void, as if it had never existed. Only Bethesda's journal was missing, and her hand still had soot on it, from the match she dropped. She wiped it off. But it came back. That night, they reached a hotel. Cheap, normal, real. The lobby had mirrors. Bethesda looked into one, and for a moment, just a moment, her reflection turned to leave. Before she did,